ranking every Pack-a-Punch quest. And coming into our number 23 spot today, ladies and gentlemen, I bet you didn't pick this one, we have got Transit. So Transit's diabolical Pack-a-Punch quest, I feel, has taken several bashings over the years. And I'm about to add to it, because it is truly that bad. So if you didn't know, Transit's Pack-a-Punch quest requires you to place a turbine in front of this door in the power room. And doing so will open this door in the bank at the town to the Pack-a-Punch room. Which, if you're playing on co-op, it's really not too bad because you can just have one person waiting at the town for the door to open. But on solo, once you place it down, you essentially have to just gun it straight to the town, and once you get there, I would say it is probably a 50% chance that the turbine didn't break and the door stayed open. And if it didn't, you've got to go all the way around the largest map in Zombies to grab a turbine and do the process all again. Sounds like fun, right? But it doesn't end there. Once you get into the Pack-a-Punch room, you've still got to build the thing. And having to build this thing right at the far end of this narrow as hallway is basically how to get yourself cornered and go down 101. It is just mind-boggling how this was considered an appropriate Pack-a-Punch quest back in the day, and to be honest, I don't think they could have made it any worse if they tried. And so Transit comes in at our number 23 spot. Coming in at our number 22 spot today, we have got Voyage of Despair. And just a quick couple of disclaimers, there will be several maps that do not feature on this list, and that is because I do not count simply turning on the power and opening doors a Pack-a-Punch quest. And the other disclaimer being, all these rankings are totally my own opinion, and this is by no means an objective ranking. Now, despite this only being the spot above, Voyage of Despair is still light years ahead of Transit's Pack-a-Punch quest, but that certainly does not make it good. So Voyage's Pack-a-Punch has got 4 locations on the map where it can be at any given time. And so in order to activate the Pack-a-Punch, players essentially just have to go to each Pack-a-Punch spot on the map and just activate them. That's it. And you know, to be honest, the problem that I have with this is that it just feels so lazy. It's not anything totally unbearable like Transit, although I do find it still kinda annoying to do, but it's like, come on, how are you gonna have a map on the Titanic and have the most basic Pack-a-Punch system ever? I remember before this map came out, I was hoping that they might put the Pack-a-Punch on the iceberg and we have to somehow hop in a lifeboat to access it. And then having this instead was just the biggest letdown, which is why I've decided to put Voyage of Despair at the number 22 spot. Coming into our number 21 spot today, we have got Darice. And my reasons for putting Darice here are pretty much the same as for Voyage of Despair. As once again, this Pack-a-Punch quest requires you to go to the 3 Pack-a-Punch locations on the map and simply just activate them. I mean, it's just so boring and basic to the point where it's like, what's even the point? It's not like it enhances the experience. If anything, it just feels like a bit of a chore, especially when you consider the depth that Darice possesses with the bows, Easter egg, DG4s, etc. Which the Pack-a-Punch quest is just lacking in every way in comparison. And so yeah, the only reason it's above Voyage is because I don't find it as annoying. But nonetheless, Darice comes in at the number 21 spot. Now coming into our number 20 spot today, we have got Blood of the Dead. And I don't think there could ever be a bigger letdown for a Pack-a-Punch quest than Blood of the Dead. When you compare it to the Pack-a-Punch quest of the map it was supposed to be a remaster of, it absolutely pales in comparison. I mean, all it requires for you to do is open the rooftop and shock the meter with a shield blast. Like, really? It genuinely still feels like a bit of a slap in the face. And once again, it's just kinda lazy. I understand that having us fly to the Golden Gate Bridge wouldn't make sense with the story, but what about something like having to grab parts to build a boat and then setting off from the docks to the Golden Gate Bridge, which I honestly think would have been just as incredible. But yeah, overall, the main reason again for it being here is it's just a bit of a letdown. Although I will give it props over the previous 3, as it's not as much of a hassle to complete. And so Blood of the Dead comes in at our number 20 spot. Now coming in at our number 19 spot, we have got Keno Do Toen. And I just want to make it clear that I'm not talking about the golden Pack-a-Punch here, just the regular. and there's just not really a lot to this one. I mean, all it involves is just grabbing a 115 rock from this little walkway and then taking it to the hermit, and also shooting the pipes above one of the pack-a-punch areas to put the fire out, which to be fair is actually kinda cool, but it's just too simple and easy, especially for a Black Ops 4 map to be ranked any higher. And I understand that the main purpose for this map is the golden pack-a-punch and not the regular, but that doesn't warrant the normal pack-a-punch being ranked any higher. So for reasons of being too simple, in my opinion, Keno Do Toen comes in at our number 19 spot. Rightio, coming in at our number 18 spot, we have got Alpha Omega. So with Alpha Omega, this pack-a-punch quest requires players to go around the houses and clear the blocked generators, which while doing so will cause a bunch of zombies and Nova crawlers to spawn in to try and stop you. And what I find particularly annoying about this is not doing it the first time. In fact, I think it's actually kinda enjoyable and a bit of a challenge to do the first time, and is a good challenge especially early on in the game. But what I find annoying is how after every several rounds after you've cleared them, they will get blocked again and again. I just find it super annoying, and I would have much rather it have been if they had made it so that they were much more difficult to clear in the first place, but after doing so they remain open for the remainder of the game. But as that's not the case, I just find that attribute of them to be too annoying, and so Alpha Omega is in at our number 18 spot. Coming into our number 17 spot, we have got 5, and funnily enough, 5 technically has got 2 pack-a-punch quests. The first one involves activating all 5 DEFCON switches within the war room area of 5, and the second way is to kill the Pentagon Thief before he grabs your weapon and get a bonfire sale, which is quite unique and really unlike any other map within zombies, but it's just a little too simple I think. There's not really a lot to it. I think I would have preferred it if the switches were at least spread out through the 3 levels of 5, or maybe have extra steps in the areas where there are no switches, just to make it more of a challenge. But I will give it some props for its uniqueness, which is why I've put it at the number 17 spot. And coming in at the spot above 5, we have got Keno Do Toen. Now Keno is essentially quite similar to 5 in that it involves activating the teleporter and its destination, where it will then take you to the pack-a-punch spot above the theatre. And like 5, it is very simple, too simple really to be any higher on our list today, but because I always enjoy being able to see the stage and theatre from up here, and due to it being pretty iconic, I've decided to place Keno Do Toen above 5. Now coming into our number 15 spot, we have got D Machine. Arguably the best visuals of any pack-a-punch quest. I really do enjoy the dark ether look in this map, with all the jellyfish floating around and everything, but unfortunately it is very basic. I mean, it just consists of going down a teleporter through the map into the room where the piece is, and then taking the piece to the pack-a-punch spot. I feel it needs just a few more steps, even if it involved the dark ether portal requiring extra steps to activate it instead of just turning on the power. But yeah, nonetheless, too simple to be any higher on our list, but it is really good aesthetically. So D Machine comes in at our number 15 spot. Now here in at our number 14 spot, the only other Cold War map featuring on this list today, we have got Keno Do Toen. Now Keno Do Toten's pack-a-punch quest, despite only being a spot above, is a bit different to D Machine. So it basically involves coming into the pack-a-punch area and initiating a challenge where you have to prove yourself to the Dark Ether, where a bunch of zombies will come in and you have to fight this thing called the Disciple. Which first time I did this, I thought it was actually going to be quite a battle, and that I'd have to be quite well prepared to make sure I got the job done. But that's not really the case. This challenge is pretty easy, even with mediocre weapons, which I think is a bit disappointing. I would have loved it if the Disciple maybe had a ton of health, or at least really powerful attacks, which would have made for a fun challenge. But as that's not the case, I've decided to put Keno Do Toen in at the number 14 spot. Alrighty, coming into our number 13 spot today, we have got Revelations. Now this map is a little bit confusing because I'm not really sure if the corruption generators count towards Pack-a-Punch or are just the means of turning on the power in this map, but I'm going to assume that they are part of the Pack-a-Punch quest. So in that case, Revelations requires you to turn on all 4 of these corruption generators and then capture the giant apothecon with the Tesla ray, which you can then enter the apothecon and shoot these 3 things holding the Pack-a-Punch Pack-a-Punch where it will then drop out. And overall, the whole premise of entering a giant apothecon is pretty cool when you think about it, and is rather unique in that sense, but, and I'm probably starting to sound like a broken record here, it's just too simple. I mean, the corruption generator things barely even count because I mean, it's part of opening up the map anyway, and from there on, it's just activate the Tesla ray and shoot your gun 3 times. So, yeah, not really a whole lot going on with this one, but it's not terrible by any means. And really, to be honest, the last several rankings are quite interchangeable in terms of where you can place them, as they're all pretty similar in terms of difficulty, but for this list I've decided to put Revelations at the number 13 spot. Alrighty, coming into our number 12 spot today, we have got Classified. Now we're starting to get into the Pack-a-Punch quests, which I think are pretty good. So Classified's Pack-a-Punch quest retains the DEFCON switches from 5, but adds an extra step, which requires you to build a teleporter enhancement thing by collecting 3 pieces around the map, and then after building it and placing it down on one of the teleporters, you can then reactivate the DEFCON switches, which will take you to Area 51, where Pack-a-Punch is located, which is pretty cool and a nice throwback to Moon, but it's not anything too crazy, and I think it suits Classified well, which I think makes Classified deserving of the number 12 spot. Coming into our number 11 spot, we've got the original Darice. The first map to have a Pack-a-Punch quest and a Pack-a-Punch in general, and honestly, it is not too bad. With having to connect all 3 teleporters around the map to the spawn, it forces you to open up the entire map and explore areas which you might not normally find yourself in, providing relevance to every part of the map, which is great. And I honestly never find myself getting sick and tired of this, no matter how many times I play Darice, because it's always quite enjoyable. And while it's not anything spectacular by any means, I think it is integrated into the map's design really well, which is why Darice claims our number 11 spot. Coming into our top 10, ladies and gentlemen, we have got Zetsubou no Shima. Zetsubou's Pack-a-Punch is quite similar to Darice in that you've got to essentially grab 3 valve parts from the 3 rooms in the bunker and bring them back to the center of the bunker and place them down, which will then drain the water. 2 of the 3 valves also require you to complete mini challenges to get them, which to be honest, I find quite enjoyable and I think are the perfect level of difficulty for this map. The game doesn't just hand them to you, but with somewhat decent weapons, it is certainly not a problem at all, which I think it's nice having something simple like this for Zetsubou, as the map can be quite overwhelming with all the other things that you've got to do. And so Zetsubou comes in at our number 10 spot. Coming into our number 9 spot, we have got ShangRah, and this is one where I feel people either love or hate this one, so this pick might be a bit controversial. But for ShangRah, to access Pack-a-Punch, players have to stand on and depress these stone slabs to raise the stairs to the Pack-a-Punch. And with one person, it is very simple. You just have to locate the one slab that could be in one of 4 locations and stand on it yourself. But if you're playing with 4 people on co-op, all 4 slabs need to be depressed at the same time, which requires a lot of coordination that is not always possible in public matches. But despite this, I actually think that it is a pretty cool idea and one that we have never really seen again ever in zombies, as it rewards cooperation with your teammates by allowing you to Pack-a-Punch. I also think the whole aesthetic of it is really cool as well. The way you get to go up this ancient temple and then get blasted back down by the water is really great, but I think it probably would have been a good idea to implement something into the map to provide a way of communicating with people on public servers, because as it currently states, Pack-a-Punching on public servers is nigh on impossible on ShangRah. But nonetheless, I've still decided to put it at the number 9 spot. And coming into our number 8 spot, we have got Buried. Now, I was actually quite torn on whether this one counts, as you could technically argue that it only involves opening doors and turning on power. But I decided to include it. So Buried's Pack-a-Punch requires you to travel through the witch's house and take them all out whilst trying not to lose any points, and then to navigate through a maze, which is honestly about as unique as it gets for zombies. And it was kind of a crazy idea to implement a maze into a zombies map. but for whatever reason, it actually works. I mean, the Witch's House, first of all, is a great challenge, as you do have to be careful, especially if you only just have enough for Pack-a-Punch, as one hit will take away 2 grand. And the maze, I think, is the perfect level of difficulty. It is constantly changing, so you're never sure of how to navigate it, but it is not too large at the same time so as to be annoying. And so yeah, honestly, just a really enjoyable Pack-a-Punch quest, and Buried secures the number 8 spot. Rightio, in at our number 7 spot today we have got Dead of the Night, a very solid Pack-a-Punch quest which requires you to essentially complete 3 challenges that are thrown at you by looking into these crystal things, and all 3 are honestly really enjoyable and are a great challenge for early on in the game. And once all 3 are complete, you get to open up the gate to this enchanted forest and confront the werewolf, which, I mean, the whole idea of entering a mysterious forest and fighting a werewolf within zombies is just incredible. And if you told 12-year-old me that this was going to feature in the zombies map, I probably would have just about fallen off my chair. And so Dead of the Night, a map that cops a lot of flack in the zombies community, I think at least deserves to be recognised for its Pack-a-Punch quest. And as a result, it comes in at our number 7 spot. Alrighty, coming into our number 6 spot, we have got 9. And we are starting to get into the Pack-a-Punch quests, which I feel are really something special. So the whole premise of 9's Pack-a-Punch quest revolves around appeasing the 4 gods in their temples around the map, with each appeasement requiring the player to do a challenge where they have to defeat the boss zombies that are thrown at them by each temple, of which each boss is, I think, the perfect level of difficulty. As with the right weapons, you can get the job done rather easily. But if you don't have at least a somewhat decent weapon, they can be a bit of a challenge, especially the brawlers and the axe thrower. But it also never really feels like you have to go too far out of your way to do these either, as all 4 challenge areas have some sort of relevance within the map, and 9's layout complements this design really well. And the whole idea of appeasing the gods just fits into the overall aesthetic of the map too. And so in the end, 9 comes in at our number 6 spot. Rightio, coming into our top 5 now, ladies and gentlemen, we have got Ascension. I mean, it really does not get much more awesome than this. The way the first step of this Pack-a-Punch quest works is almost identical to Darice. It involves taking the lunar lander from 3 different spots around the map to the spawn room, which, like Darice, forces you to open up the map and explore areas you wouldn't normally go to, which is great. And I mean, it's always a treat getting to ride on the lunar landers as well, and getting a pretty sweet view of the map. But easily the best part of this quest is once these are all done, you get to launch the rocket ship. Which honestly, the more I think about it, the more I realise how crazy it is we get to launch a rocket within a zombies map. And not to mention they were able to do this in Black Ops 1 as well. It's always just so cool and a treat to be able to launch this thing. Not to mention as well that you can also blow it up if you have explosive weapons and get yourself a free double points. Just an all around great Pack-a-Punch quest, especially for its time, and Ascension comes in at number 5. Now coming in at our number 4 spot, we have got Shadows of Evil. And what is kind of unique about Shadows of Evil being this high on our list is that there is nothing really spectacular that happens in this quest. Nothing that could compare to the rocket launch on Ascension anyway. But the reason it's so high is because of how well it is designed. Essentially revolving around going to each player's area of the map and completing a ritual, which first of all is great because again it makes you explore through and open up the entire map. And then after that is complete, you get to go to the underground area of the map, open up this huge ritual room and complete one final ritual to open up Pack-a-Punch. I mean, it never feels like a chore, possesses a good challenge with the Margwas, and is well integrated with the beast mode, which is why it comes in at our number 4 spot. Now coming into our number 3 spot, ladies and gentlemen, we have got Ancient Evil. Just an underrated map in general, but but the Pack-a-Punch quest itself is the perfect example of how to take advantage of a map setting. It first of all involves riding Pegasus to the second half of the map, which is already amazing in and of itself. Then once in the center of the world, you have to use your specialist to free the two birds, and then once you've done that, the final step involves defending against an onslaught of skeletons and zombies while these birds free up the Pack-a-Punch. Which honestly, this final step can be quite the challenge if you don't have a decent setup, which I think is great, as it makes you really work for the Pack-a-Punch. And all the steps in this quest just play into the Greek mythology of the map, which I just appreciate so much. And honestly, the more I play this map in general, the more it seems to grow on me. And so in the end, Ancient Evil, great aesthetic, great Pack-a-Punch quests, and in the end it secures a podium finish. Rightio, now in at our number 2 spot we have got Gordo Vy. An iconic does not even begin to describe this Pack-a-Punch quest, which first of all, again, the first step is quite a bit similar to Darice, in that it involves collecting 3 cylinders from the zombies and then activating these in 3 different spots on the map, which then each one will bring down a capsule which you have to defend from the zombies. And honestly, you cannot let your guard down with these. I mean, defending them is not too difficult, but you can quite easily go down if you aren't paying attention to the zombies spawning around you, which has got me several times if I'm being honest. But if you're careful enough, defending them is not too difficult, especially with the right weapons, which is great. And once this is done, you input the items from each capsule, which allows you to call the dragons. Possibly one of the coolest moments in all of zombies. Once the dragon has been called, you can then hop on it and fly over to the Pack-a-Punch room. I mean, what more can you say about it, honestly? Not to mention again, it just fits into the map's theme so well, which the past couple rankings have shown just how big of an impact using the map's theme and aesthetic to the map's advantage can have with things like Pack-a-Punch quests. And Gordo Vy embodies that whole idea perfectly, which is what has secured it the second place finish on our list today. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the king of all Pack-a-Punch quests. Could it be anything else? We have got Mob of the Dead. I mean, talk about taking advantage of the theme of a map. There is just no greater example in my own opinion. The whole idea of this Pack-a-Punch quest is centered around the 4 prisoners constructing a plan to escape from Alcatraz, and doing so by essentially solving puzzles and doing challenges to collect 5 items to aid the escape, of which all these puzzles and challenges are spaced out perfectly and are situated on the pathways you take when opening up the map, meaning they are never too far out of your way. And it's not just the fact you get to escape the prison, but you get to escape by building a plane and taking off from the roof. I'm not sure you could come up with a better story for an escape, even if you tried. And then from there, the plane obviously crashes into the Golden Gate Bridge, where Pack-a-Punch is located. I mean, it's just such a cool story, and it still gets me excited to this day whenever I play Mob of the Dead. And honestly should be the basis for how to design a Pack-a-Punch quest for every map. It is just so good and is always a pleasure, which in the end secures Mob of the Dead the gold medal finish. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. As always, let me know what you agreed or disagreed with, and feel free to even type out your rankings in the comments below, as I'm always curious to know how other people rank things. But nonetheless, I hope you did enjoy, and look forward to an upcoming video, as it is going to be my most comprehensive yet by far. So have a good day, and I'll see you for another video in the coming days.